Parents, you're not alone. If your child is struggling with ADHD, immune challenges, developmental delays, sensory struggles, seizures, or any difficult diagnosis, we've been there, walked through it, and we're here to help. Truth is, when you meet me and my care advocates at Innate Family Chiropractic, we all have a story that got us here to help kids and families with complex neurological struggles and challenges. For me, it was my own kids' challenges that started us on this whole journey. Our team understands children on the spectrum, diagnosed with rare diseases, are special needs, had traumatic birth injuries, needed to work through major allergies, or even chronic immune struggles, or dealt with motor, sensory, or speech delays. We've seen and experienced it, and that's why we want to help you. Moms, especially those who are looking for doctors and a team of caregivers who will listen, understand, and will guide them through their child's health challenges. This video is all about your story, how likely my story is similar to yours. This is for parents looking for answers from diagnosis to action steps to a healing journey. So I want to take this time to share just on a personal note, our story and what we've been through. And this one may take a second, but if you'll bear with me, we'll get through this. I just kind of made some notes. I didn't script this, so it's certainly not polished or pretty. But I wanted to speak from the heart. I didn't want to speak from a script. I wanted to tell you my story like I would tell you if we were standing on the back porch watching the fire burn. So, when Denver, this is a story about my kid. And so he, this was this out of control kid. He was having meltdowns, going to the big crowds or big family events, or even small family events. I mean, he could barely do the 8 and 10 person family events, much less the 20 and 30 crowds. He had speech delay, had food aversion, transitions. If there was any kind of change of plan or just really any kind of change other than something he wanted to be doing was just brutal. He was called a wrecking ball at one point from one school. And, this kid needed constant supervision. He was a flight risk. We were one of the parents that had our kid on a leash, and and we certainly got all the judging eyes and stuff like that for that. But this kid was hard to control and required constant supervision. So let me back up and just kind of go from the very beginning, because if you follow me at all, you know that we talk about stress. When that stress starts, is becoming the most important feature in how we get the nervous system back on track. So basically, from conception to birth was fairly innocuous. We had, Cassie was working long hours and at a high stress job. But other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of stress in life. And as we got closer, we had made all the preparations. We had our midwife, we had our plan, we were ready to rumble. We were gonna have this kid at home. I was gonna help deliver. We were excited about it and ready to rumble. So we get to the day. And if you know anything about birth, the pushing phase should be the shortest, around 15-20 minutes maybe. And usually they're positioned, ready to go, and then we push and they're out. For Denver, he was stuck in there for 6 hours. And, we monitored him. His his heart rate was perfect. He was never stressed. Completely. Mom was never stressed, obviously in pain, obviously a stressful moment, being in the birthing canal and pushing for that amount of time. But we stayed with it and we breathed through it and we did everything. But as you can imagine, this little guy came out and he had the old cone head and he was squished together pretty good, but he got his first adjustment before he was even off the umbilical cord. And I thought, this kid's off to a good life, right? Got that nervous system tuned up. First thing out, he's going to be good to go. And he was for the first year and a half. That kid hitting all his milestones. He was starting to babble and say some good words, and trying new foods, and really just getting along. And then right around 18 months, in the toddling, and this kid, he went off the couch and he landed on his head onto the coffee table. Big ol' egg. And that thing, it swelled up, hurt him pretty good. And, like most parents, we brushed it off and we moved on. But it was right after that we noticed, it's like, he quit trying new foods. As a matter of fact, he won't eat the foods that he was eating. He had completely regressed. He was no longer saying dad. That was heartbreaking. He was no longer saying mom. He wasn't even trying to mumble words anymore. He had just absolutely shut down. And I was like, oh no, here we go. So what's happening? I didn't know. So we sent him in for speech therapy, and get him enrolled in that. And so we start this speech therapy. The kid's only, I think he was 2.5, 3 when we started this. So we had gone through an entire almost a year of trying to figure out what was going on with this kid. We had been kicked out of a couple of Mother's Day outs, a couple of gyms, and their daycare programs, because they just didn't have the personnel or the facilities to manage a child like that. We went to to a special school where we pay a lot of money, and they joked one night at Mother's Day out that he was a wrecking ball. That's where that came from, and they thought that was just hilarious until the principal called us the next week and said, we don't know what to do with this kid. They're out of control and we don't have any options. They were unwilling to make any changes. And so that really sucked for him, but it sucked for us. And, when those things happen, you feel ostracized and you feel isolated. And not just from your schools and your daycares, but everywhere. We go to the playground and kids look at him weird, parents look at him weird, and they give you those eyes, and you know the eyes I'm talking about. Those judgy eyes are like, that guy doesn't know what he's doing with that kid. He's just letting him run around being feral, and it's hard. And sometimes those judgy eyes are your own family, and they don't understand. They don't know what they're looking at, and just assume that it's poor parenting. And it's a horrible, horrible situation to be in, and it absolutely sucks. So going to large gatherings, I'm talking 5 or more, was an impossibility for us. So we didn't get to go to a lot of family functions, and if we did, they were short, with a few family, a few friends, a couple at a time. But that was hard to get through, and that judgment is real, and I know what you're going through. Through all those different settings, the daycare settings, and that in the schools and things like that, just it makes you mad, because you feel like, I can manage this kid at home. Why can't these people manage my kid? Are they even trying? Do they not want to? They're just so shocked by their behavior that they just can't manage to live their lives normally, and so we're putting too much pressure and onus on them. So it just makes you mad. Where you start to judge your own parenting, right? And like question that, and you go, well, okay, time to read some more books and follow some gurus on social and figure out what we can make changes here and there and be nice to these kids, or give them direction and keep them safe and all the fun stuff. But let me tell you, none of that works. It just doesn't. When you have kids like this, It's not about how you parent them. It's the fact that they can't process what you're parenting, and it doesn't matter what your parenting looks like. It's the inability. They cannot. And I used to never say that, but it's the truth. They cannot. So on his little journey, right about COVID is when he started pre-K. So this is just a bad situation. We were already enrolled in special ed. We hadn't even started school. We're already in special ed. We go to the special ed program, can't go in the building, can't even meet. I didn't even meet his teacher his first year. Never even saw her. We just dropped our kid off at the school and picked him up a little bit later, and we don't know what happened in there, what was going on outside, or anything. We just know our kid probably wasn't having a very good time. Fast forward to the next year, they sent him back to his regular classroom saying, oh, he'll be fine. And then we get phone calls, and I'm not exaggerating, 4 or 5 days per week. And we were having to pick this kid up from school 3 or 4 times per week, all year long. I'm not sure that he went to an entire week of school, his entire kindergarten year. My wife jokes about it now. Every time she sees the elementary school calling, she's like, PTSD, and she can't handle it. She's like, oh no, what's happening now? Do I have to drop what I'm doing and go get my kid? And her heart flutters and it picks up the pace, and it's just awful. So we had this, and we had this whole group around him, right? We had speech, and we had OT, and we had counselors, and we had the principal and the vice principal and the special ed teacher, and we had, like, I kid you not, we buy lunch for like 30 people, right? They put a team around this kid, but they don't have the facilities and the manpower to handle more than one. And it gets really, really difficult for them to manage this. And it got to a point for me where I was like, I need to learn, we got to figure this out. And, about 2012 or so, I went out to California to a conference, and I was listening to this guy on pediatric chiropractic, which has always been something I've loved. I've always loved taking care of kids. The problem is I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what I was doing that, other than giving a little adjustment, but outside of that, not really sure how to handle especially a tough case like what I was dealing with. I was out of my league. But I got to listen to this guy. His name was Tony Ebel. You guys might have heard of him from PX Docs. And he spoke the truth about how chiropractic can save these kids' lives. And I thought, I want to do that. And then I didn't do anything about it. Fast forward 4 years, and we have a baby of our own. And flash forward, if I can say that right, fast forward a couple more years, and now we have a child with special needs. And I needed another tool in my belt to conquer this. But I didn't know where to start or what to do. And I've been following Dr. Ebel, for the last decade. And I knew that he had created this program to help other doctors do what he did. And I thought, well, let's take a look at that. So about 3 more months go by, we're finishing up first grade, and Cassie looks at me and she says, you need to sign up for that class and just go do it. And I was like, all right. So I did it. Paid the money, took all the online classes. It was a lot, hours and hours and hours with this stuff, and videos and training on science and technique. And then we went to an in-person in Georgia to go over care planning and case management and how we communicate and deal with these kids and families the best way that we can with the tools that we have. But I needed the new tools, and that's what I learned. That's what I got. I got all this science and all this education and the scans that we're already doing here in the office, and I got educated on what that means, and then how the chiropractic adjustment changes and fixes that and creates balance within the body, which is what undoes these processes for these kids. and for adults. And so when I went to that and I came back, as we were leaving, I should say, I immediately adjusted my kid and I told Cassie, I said, we're doing this as soon as we get home. I promised I wasn't going to change everything in my office, but now I promise you everything's changing in my office. We're absolutely moving forward with this mission, because if we can make this change in our own kid, we have to tell the community. We have a responsibility to tell our community, to make them understand that we can help that, and that we can help them get their lives back, and that we can help them get their kids' lives back. And every kid counts, and it matters so, so much. So we come home, and I'll tell you, I had this new understanding of what it is that we needed to do: pediatric chiropractic, neurologically-focused chiropractic. I thought I was already doing some of that, and there was a missing component, and was care planning. Because what I didn't pair together was the neurological change, how long it took, and what we needed to do in the middle to make that change sustainable. And that's what I learned, and it was care planning. How many times do we need to see you? How many times do we need to get you adjusted in order for you to get the neurological change that your system needs? And it all depended on how long it's been that way. And so that new understanding helped us create this new purpose, this new vision, and this new mission to get the word out. Because I didn't want any more people to go through what we've been through. We've been there, we've sat there, we've shed the tears, and we felt hopeless and alone and ignored and ostracized. Even your own parents can't help you because they don't understand. They just do the best they can to support you. These kids and these families needed our help, and that's what we're here to do. So we created a new team. I gotta stay on my notes here. I get off track. We created this new team. We created a new vision, a new purpose. And part of that is to bring this to the community. That's why you see me online putting out these videos. This is not comfortable. I don't enjoy doing this, but I do have a mission, and it is to tell you, mom, dad, what it is that we're doing here. This is my kid's story, and it's my story also. It's how I got to where I am, so that I can help you with what you're going through. But you have to understand that I know that I do understand. So what does this look like now? Well, I can tell you, Denver is a totally different kid from a couple of years ago. We started him on, when I got back from Georgia, I immediately started him on the care plan. We really saw him change in a way that was remarkable. We no longer get the phone calls from the school. We might get the occasional email that he was being rambunctious or something in class or on the playground with his friends. Anything abnormal from a normal 7-year-old or 8-year-old. And, big crowds, food sensitivities, loud noises, things. I mean, we can go watch a fireworks show. We can go to the fair and see hundreds of people or thousands. Speech delay is doing so much better. Is it perfect? No, but are we closing the gap? Yes. Food aversion. This kid, just last night, he tried steak again for the first time since he was 18 months old, because that's what he was doing before the head injury. And he hadn't touched it since. So it took time, but we got there. Transitions, if we have to hiccup, we load up and we're all excited to go to the pool. We go to the pool and the pool's closed. Well, that would have been like a day ender for us. But now it's not. It's like, oh, okay, I guess we'll do something else. That's a good way to manage a transition. And so this kid is doing so much better. And how does that change your life? Well, let me tell you, all this time that we spend pent up and anxious and watching our kids like hawks to the point where we can't even go sit on the toilet and close the door because we can't. we have to have eyes on 100% of the time. We don't have to do that anymore. And let me tell you, it is beautiful to be able to not have to stare at your child at every single second, to be able to drop them off with a friend, to be able to drop them off at school, to be able to drop them off at church, to have this kid go in and navigate his world without us. That was huge. And it makes such a big difference. You know, his teachers are cheering him on. We still have work to do to make up from what was lost. We got to make up the gap that continues to move in the positive direction, and he's got to catch up to that. But we'll get there, and I'm positive that we will. So, I've been talking for almost 20 minutes about me, about my kid, but I wanted to relate to you guys that we've been through this. Cassie and I have absolutely been through every single thing, and it is so difficult. No matter what degree you're going through, it is so difficult, and we understand you. Nothing is more powerful than parents looking for hope, answers, and help for their children. So don't ever stop doing just that, moms and dads. It's always worth it. If you're interested in the next steps on your journey, we would love to first talk to you about your story. We can relate. So send us a DM or even give us a call to talk with one of our care advocates. If you're like me in my story and are new to the idea of pediatric chiropractic, check out our website to walk through our 5-step clinical process of a personalized consult, neurological insight scans, a customized care plan, a report of findings visit where we would guide you through it all and how we can care through neurologically-focused chiropractic care. Plus, be sure to check out more of our team stories on our About Us page. You are likely to find one similar to your own.